you want to enter the final 1v1. However, talk about the final 1v1s. It's going to be the favorite to enter the final two racers. It's going to be Neal from Live Sandbox.
Neal, this is the player that we all know and love as the global superstar here in the KDL. He is challenging for his third Royal Rotor this season around. He's got 2 solo grand finals appearance already this year, 2 runner-up finishes. Not as decorative as Neal would like, so maybe this time he can get that solos finals champion title.
Neal, he let it slip away so close both times in the preseason. He was actually the one to get the 80 points both times in the preseasons. We'll see if he's able to continue that feat.
And just like his message says, 2 hours to go to become the winner. You can see Cool is all about confidence tonight, but he's gonna have to prove that against the black racer Neal. And you can see Neal is also feeling pretty confident based on his message.
Yeah, the smiley face really just makes it Neal's message, right? And it all begins on our very first track between these 8 racers. We're going to kick things off on WKC Brazil Circuit. And the race is off. Of course, as always, the first place racer will be able to select the next track, and Luning is going to cut across everyone right from the get-go, and he's even just creating more distance to try to maintain the lead for the entire race.
Luning absolutely taking the highlight away from Cool right now, just as you said. Although it's Cool's track, Luning is having such a phenomenal start that Cool. He's had so much pressure on him to catch up there. In fact, he gets a perfect angle on that, gets bumped by the player behind him, and now he's in first.
Yeah, I mean, Cool just making sure to avoid all the aggression through the regular shortcut, just takes a bit of a longer route through that grass, and he's able to maintain a spot in the top 2. Now his teammate SUNGBIN is right behind him, trying to make sure that he's able to try to contest for a podium finish. Neal breaking through, though. I mean, Neal and Cool, these guys are very familiar with being in the top 2 places all throughout the solos, and once again, it looks like it's a race between them two.
It has absolutely been a traditional rivalry between the two, as Neal, he looks to take first place for himself now. It feels like Neal and Cool are just off in their own world here, Will.
Yeah, and we have to make sure, take a look at the standings. Nock is still in the midfield, just waiting for an opportunity to try to break through. Meanwhile, HoJun, he's starting to creep his way up the standings, trying to just click closer and closer to the front of the pack.
And you can see right now, Luning and SUNGBIN made their way up as well. More pressure being applied to Cool and Neal, but once again, they're able to pull apart, and this time around, the players take a safer line so that there's no big collisions happening near those tires.
Yeah, but once again, Cool continuously trying to look for an opportunity to shut off the other racers when they're going across the grass. He'll take the risk of being on the grass just a bit longer, and this time he's trying to cut off Neal with a nice cut, getting a little bit extra boost gauge for himself as well. Neal will find an opportunity off that draft and boost, trying to get back into first place. Hero shows up out of nowhere, now wants a piece of the pie in the podium.
It's once again right now, Neal in the lead and Cool trying to catch up. And Cool does attempt, but Neal with the phenomenal block there is going to allow him to keep that first place here. Cool looking for the lines, but Neal, he has to read on his opponent right now. And it's going to be Neal coming in first for our set 1 of solos.
Yeah, Cool knew he had one extra chance with the draft at the end, however.
We really thought Cool might be able to have that one, Will, because he stayed in top 3, if not top 2, throughout the whole entirety of that track. And as you put it,
but now Neal's going to take us to one of his favorite tracks. It's going to be Glacier Snowbound Slopes.
And the race kicks off in a round 2 of solos here in set number 1 as Neal, he's looking to be in the lead once again, looking to gather all the points as much as possible, and it has paid off for him so far, but he's going to get set behind by this group of players moving forward.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks that Neal has that victory with 0 drafts. However, this time he was trying to look for another opportunity as they entered the first section, and he's able to bump against the railing. Not going to find that opening, so now he does have to get a couple extra drafts if he wants to catch up to the rest of the pack. HoJun trying to get some extra points to his name. A lot of collisions in that first tunnel, and we're going to see a bit of an extra gap being created between the top 4 and the bottom 4.
Hero dropped down to 5th place off those collisions. That was such a big moment for him in a bad way, and you can see Neal in the mini camera that he is set behind so much despite having such a phenomenal record in this track. It's all about Cool right now.
Yeah, I mean, Cool, sure, Neal got the first place on track 1, but once again, he's going to be in that spotlight in contention for first or second place, looking to make sure that he gets into at least the final 1v1. Still a long way to go, though. We are going to 80 points here in the final 8 of the solo racers here of the KDL.
As we take the lift. We're gonna see Cool in the lead once again, followed up by HoJun and Luning. The thing is, Cool, he manages to block HoJun out off that collision into the wall. That was such a cool maneuver by Cool himself, and now it's Luning fighting for that first spot against Cool here, as Cool once again shows off why he's great at blocking when he's in that first place.
Yeah, when it comes to the solos, Cool, I mean, he's just able to play such good defense, and he's able to showcase why he's been one of those favorites, the regulars that comes into the finals, that goes to the 1v1s, continue to make sure he's not giving Luning a chance. We always talk about how narrow this track is in the first half. It's very risky. Now going to the cave, we saw tons of collisions. Oh, early on, SUNGBIN, he's gonna take a bit of a risk, but he's gonna make sure that he's not colliding and gets that opportunity to close the gap and even take over first place.
My goodness, that line from SUNGBIN was so beautiful. Now he is firmly in first place, but Cool applying so much aggression towards SUNGBIN right now, and Cool is constantly maneuvering to the left and right field. He's taking that right build this time, and Cool is in the lead once again.
Yeah, he gets the draft right off of the jump, and he's trying to find that opportunity. However, just a couple extra cuts, that means he loses the speed. SUNGBIN's able to hold on the first for now. He's trying to block off Luning, and he will be able to maintain it. SUNGBIN climbing all the way back up to the top of the leaderboard, making sure he gets 10 points to his name. We should take a note. Neal, it was his track of choice, and he falls down all the way to 8th place after a rough start.
Yeah, that is really, really rough for Neal there. Fortunately, he did pick up the 10 points in round number 1.
He's gonna kick things off here in round 3 with mind-winding slopes. We'll see if SUNGBIN can get another first place to his name here in round 3. This time it is SUNGBIN's track of choice, and SUNGBIN just says, you know what, I'm not going to try to go for any of these aggressive cuts early on. We'll just let the rest of the crowd figure it out. Doesn't want to get into too many collisions before entering the first narrow passageway, and that secures him the top 2 spots for now.
It has definitely paid off for SUNGBIN here, as Luning is looking to be in the spotlight this time along with JiMin. It feels like JiMin, it's been a while since we've seen him up in the top 2, so we're going to see whether he can keep that up. We see Cool all the way down in 8th place right now. That's not where he wants to be.
Oh, and Knock, I mean, barely recovering, not dropping off the track. However, he's going to lose so much speed just to try to stay alive.
Ooh.
And we see a couple extra collisions there. Now we see players being pushed out. JiMin no longer in the podium finish for the time being. Luning, however, this gives him a bit more breathing room as we enter the caves.
Yeah, these caves can be really tricky to maneuver around. We've seen so many times players just colliding into the wall and losing all momentum, but it didn't happen now. Luning, he's having such a big lead. We're likely going to see some spins out of Neal and Hero to catch up.
Yeah, and Hero, he was trying to find an opportunity off of that draft, and Neal gets a good read, blocks him out. HoJun finds that opportunity to cut across several of those racers, and Neal with a clean spin turn. One of the cleanest we've seen. He avoids all the collisions from his opponents and the walls themselves. HoJun, can he at least get a podium finish as Neal and Luning, they will enter 1-2, and HoJun in 3.
Man, that spin from Neal was so phenomenal. Luning went for the exact same thing, but Neal just executed it so much better.
But HoJun, he's trying to get right back into the running with a nice 3rd place finish, gets 5 points to his name.
Yeah, definitely, and now we can look at the standings. Neal, Luning, and Cool are really starting to build a significant lead off the rest of the group. And
it's going to be a little rough as we take a look at our next track. It's going to be Mexico Touring Rally.
the race kicks off in Neal's second choice of track tonight, as we are now here in Mexico Touring Rally, and we're seeing Luning going for that phenomenal start once again. I feel like Luning has found a lot of these really great early leads.
Yeah, Luning and Cool, these are the racers that have constantly been in these podium finishes, right? Oh, and Cool just edges everyone out as they have to play a little bit safer as they're bumping against each other on that turn. Cool continue to maintain first place for the time being. Everyone cuts across the gap. Neal this time not falling too far behind on his track of choice.
It feels to me right now that Cool just has been able to find so much aggressive plays today, but that is not the play he wanted. He jumped straight into the wall, and now he's kind of gone from the race for the time being.
Yeah, he cut that corner a little too early and just bumped right onto that incline, flies right into the branches of the tree. So he is out for the time being. Neal still healthily in podium finish range. SUNGBIN trying to get back into it. And HoJun, I mean, there is a bit of a point gap right now between the top three and the rest, but if HoJun can get into 1 or 2, then he should get enough points to get into contention for the top 2.
And for the time being, though, SUNGBIN finds excellent blocks on HoJun right now, constantly keeping him in check, but it does allow Luning to get that room he wanted. Hero and Neal coming up as well.
Yeah, and HoJun gets pushed out just a bit.
Oh,
Luning going to lose that control. Somebody wants to cut off HoJun. HoJun, he's playing very aggressive, but he has to remember just second place could be good enough. No, that risk is not going to...
HoJun!
What in the world was that, HoJun? He's going to be able to get right back into the lead, but he loses too much speed.
First place spot.
Yeah, cool. He was able to climb all the way back up to 5th place, so he still gets a couple extra points, maintains a spot in the double digits with 18. And we're going to see, as we take a look at the overall standings, Neal continue to stay ahead, but SUNGBIN and Cool.
It's SUNGBIN's choice of track for a round 5 in Forest Zigzag Timberland.
And track 5 begins. Now SUNGBIN, just like Neal on the first track of choice he had, he fell right back into 8th place, getting -1 points, losing a point off that race. We'll see if he's able to continue the momentum this time here on Zigzag Timberland.
And once again, the story, it's between Neal, Luning, and Cool here, 3 players that are absolutely topping our charts right now in terms of point standings. In fact, Neal is going to take a huge collision for himself there. Now that gives so much room for Luning, Cool, and JiMin.
Yeah, JiMin, he's only got 8 points to his name. He has a lot of catching up to do, and if he's able to get first place, that would be a good start for him. Of course, we are going all the way up to 80, so it is quite a long journey still awaiting us here in the finals.
Yeah, and you can see Cool instantly going for that left cut right there to try to block off the players from catching up. Once again, Cool, he's doing it every time. He's staying on the right path, and he just cuts into the left field. These blocks are crazy, Will.
Yeah, I mean, the way Cool is able to play defense in solos, it's actually not so much going for these direct blocks, but it's actually forcing these errors from his opponents, right? I mean, Luning eventually has to bump against the track, falls quite far behind now into 7th place. Now SUNGBIN finding an opportunity, getting back into podium range, contending for that first spot. Of course, all of them trying to get their boost gauges back up with the cuts here on the straight path as well.
Now it's all about Hero and SUNGBIN up in that top 2. You can see Nock and Luning actually all the way down in 7th and 8th. So Luning definitely got to do some catch up because he was a strong contender. Now you can see Neal also gunning for that spot. Gets a beautiful collision onto SUNGBIN there as well.
I mean, suddenly a lot of racers' destinies are in Neal's hands. While it is all the way up to 80 points, Neal continuing to try to widen the gap right now as he holds on to first place. Cool doesn't want to let that happen, especially because Cool and SUNGBIN currently tied at 18 points. You want to make sure you're able to get a bit of a bigger lead as you enter perhaps the later half of the solo races here in the final 8. HoJun now going for his own opportunity as well here in the very last parts of lap 2.
But Neal was able to block him off just in time there as Neal continuing to keep that first place under his belt. Cool, he's looking for the angles right now, and that was an insane line taken by Cool. Followed up by another insane block. Cool is just the coolest player we have in the KDL right now.
Ice cold, absolutely. Look at the distance he's able to create off of the way he cuts on the inner corner of the very first hairpin, and then he's able to just block off Neal.
Name and performance tonight. Not only tonight, for the whole year you can say. Cool has been having such a amazing debut here in the KDL season, and he's going to pick up those 10 points, goes up to 28 points. Now, against SUNGBIN, he's up 10 points. It feels like Neal and Cool.
It's going to be World Tour Terracotta Twister here for track number 6.
And the race kicks off in Cool's choice of track here for round 5, as this is his first place finish of tonight, and I'm really surprised by his choice in Terracotta Twister. I feel like that speaks so much volume in his confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just going to say, you know, regardless of whether other racers like it or not, this is one of my favorite tracks. I'm very confident on it. We'll see what he can do. Now, Hero gets a bit of a bump as he's trying to cut too close to the corner. Loses quite a bit of speed, allows Cool to find an opportunity to get into the top 4. SUNGBIN, good recovery there as we enter the tubes, and SUNGBIN tries to push Cool out of the races, but Cool is able to stabilize.
Oh my God!
And he absolutely demolishes HoJun on that defense, and more racers as well. How does he continue to do it track after track?
Man, Cool's form is just looking so scary here as he refuses to allow even SUNGBIN to pass after demolishing all his opponents one by one. You can see SUNGBIN and Hero, the only players that managed to dodge the menace of Cool so far.
Yeah, I mean, HoJun and Luning not even seen here on the mini-map, so they are pretty much out of the races, we have to imagine. Now Neal still finding an opportunity. Good draft. He finds the opportunity. Oh, good spin turn for recovery though, and in fact, blocks off Knock, is able to maintain his distance to get right back into draft range.
Neal is pulling out these crazy Neal builds that we know him for so well right now, and it has paid off for him, but not enough as we see JiMin, Cool, and Hero in the top 3 as we enter the tomb section.
Yeah, Cool's looking for another opportunity to just look at the way he's setting up. He's trying to make sure he's able to get enough distance, and he finds it in between both racers once again. But Hero, good recovery. He has to lose a bit of speed to make sure he finds his build. That allows Cool to catch up. The draft comes in, and that gives him enough top speed. Cool back in first place once again. Can Hero cut him off? He's able to shove him out, but Neal says thank you very much for the scuffles, and Neal will be crossing the finish line first.
Man, that is third 10 points for Neal in the back for him to.
How close does he get to the 80 points? And then it's a matter of who's in second place right after. Currently, Cool still holding on to it, even though he only got 4 points this race. On Terracotta Twister, he has 32, still a healthy 9 points ahead of Hero.
As we now move on to round 7, picked by Neal here in the Mine Gold Rush.
Neal once again with another first place finish. He's trying to repeat it, chain it into a couple more, get to that 80 points early, because once again, he's the one who got 80 points in both preseason's finals. However, then he lost out in the 1v1 best of 5. He doesn't want to make the same mistake tonight.
Definitely Neal is the player that we expect to see moving on to set 2 based on his points as well as his standings. It's Neal versus Cool again. This might be a preview into the finals at this point because these 2 players are constantly in the top.
Yeah, Neal just holding a bit too close to that corner the entire time. Makes way for Cool to take the outer line. Goes into first place for the time being, but Neal, he still has plenty of opportunities as we still have another lap awaiting us here on Mine Gold Rush. Cool with a bit of distance. HoJun, I mean, he's always been able to kind of veer his head into the podium towards the end of each first lap, but then something happens, a crash, a collision, or maybe some other form of drafts coming in from right behind him, like we see right now with Knock and SUNGBIN, and then he's out of the picture again.
Yeah, that's going to be a crazy turnaround of events here as now JiMin and HoJun leading the pack here in 1-2, and we can see Neal, he's all the way back in 6th place, but I'm sure he'll be able to catch up real soon. His lines are looking extra sharp right now.
Oh, Neal's playing aggressively. He wants to take the most inner line to try to take over everyone, but no one's giving him that space, so he has to wait another draft opportunity. Cool, meanwhile, is able to find that as they get back into the straightaway, entering the next cave. Now another U-turn awaits them as they exit. We'll see Cool, he's able to play defense here. He's able to block out Knock, and that means no one else is able to pass him yet either. They're now going to go into the teleporter, and then only 1-2 more turns awaiting them. SUNGBIN's going to cut him off on the inner line, gets the block onto Cool as well, and Cool actually collides into other racers, gets bounced all the way back to 5th place. Meanwhile, SUNGBIN will be finishing in first. SUNGBIN, that puts him right back into contention into the top 2. Sets a new record for Mine Gold Rush as well, taking over Liv Sandbox's Byung-Soo's record here in the very first season of the KDL. Take a look at the standings. Neal still with 45, Cool 35, but SUNGBIN, he's caught up a lot more now with only 6 points behind Cool.
And now we'll see if he can make that happen here in SUNGBIN's choice of track in Glacier Extreme Stadium. And the round 8 of our solos finals here kicks off in the choice of track from SUNGBIN. As we see SUNGBIN having a bit of a slower start compared to his other races, it is once again Cool in the front. Yeah, this seems to be SUNGBIN's idea here tonight for the final 8, is just to let everyone else deal with the chaos as Neal gets bumped back a little bit there, getting blocked off by one of his opponents, and then he's able to just maintain his boost at the drafts. So SUNGBIN trying to rely on the drafts to catch up to the rest of the pack. However, that does mean he has to rely on his opponents as well to try to get back into podium standing. Oh. Cool, hit the wall quite a bit hard there. It feels like he didn't get the angle he really wanted. So now he's going to be all the way back in 7th place, and it's Hero and Neal really brawling it out right now. Hero took a big collision from Neal there, but a beautiful recovery nonetheless.
Yeah, Hero's able to recover for the time being, and he gets that boost just in time to make sure he's blocking off anyone off of that jump. Now it comes down to the cuts, and Luning says, all right, I'm just going to go for this risk-reward play. Goes for 0 cuts, gets that extra boost, just to try to get into first place, relies on refilling the boost gauge here on the curves.
Ooh, and it's interesting to keep in mind that Neal also took a pretty big collision for himself there, now falling behind even Cool in 7th place. And given that Cool and Neal are the top 2 leaders of our board right now, this is chance for other players to catch up.
Yeah, Luning, we'll see if that gamble paid off as he entered lap 2. He's still in contention for first place. Now Hero holding on to first for the time being, but Luning has all the opportunities right now. He's actually going to find an opportunity. Can he cut off Hero? Yes, he does. Now he needs to set up once again for the hairpins. Hero's trying to cut him off on the outer line. Hero gets the better build going into the hairpins right off the get-go. Gets a block onto Luning as well.
Oh.
But Cool is going to pressure Hero enough. Hero has to take an extra jump, loses that speed. HoJun finds an opportunity to miss the chaos.
Cool.
And Cool, he's just going to get a better top speed off of the landing and crosses the finish line first. On that last jump of the hairpins, he takes the corner a little too close and barely makes it onto the landing, which means he gets another extra bump in the air. And that was all the speed that Cool needed to make sure that he was able to climb right back into first place. Now only 4 points away from Neal. Neal slowed down quite a bit, still 31 points to go. It's going to be WKC Shanghai Circuit. Cool racing with the yellow stripes, only 4 points behind Neal, who's going to be the one to reach the 80 points first, get that top seed going into the final 1v1.
You see Neal really leading right now as you saw the aggressive turns the players took there, and Neal maneuvered that beautifully, and you can see Knock in the first place. It's been a while since we've seen him contest these spots.
Yeah, Knock, he's been quiet all throughout, but we keep mentioning it, right? This time it's only 2 players that move on to set 2 into that 1v1. You can't just be that super observer anymore. You have to make impact on the podium at some point. And Knox finds out that, you know, he doesn't have much time left. This has to be his opportunity.
And Luning is going to take a unfortunate end on his line there for himself, falls into 7th place. Right now it's once again Neal and Cool in the front, up with Nog. And anytime we've seen Neal and Cool up in front, every other player pretty much fell out of the main camera view eventually, as Neal, he does it again here. He executes him.
Yeah, the pressure onto Nog, and Nog just tries to go for an extra aggressive block there. Tries to sweep Neal into the wall. Ends up costing him all his speed, and now once again, like you mentioned, Peter, it's a race between Neal and Cool, but the rest of the pack's still right behind them. I mean, a couple drafts and anything could happen here on Shanghai Circuit.
I love that little boop from Cool onto JiMin there. It actually changed the pace so much. Once again, JiMin, he gets completely blocked out of his path, and he's going to be locked into that 8th place for the time being. It's Neal gunning for that top spot with SUNGBIN and Luning.
Yeah, Luning does have an opportunity with the draft, but SUNGBIN's going to get one of his own as well, and that should be a safe 1-2 finish for Neal and SUNGBIN. Neal with yet another 10 points to his name, bringing him all the way up to 59.
To change anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's now only 21 points away. We talked about how, you know, maybe we have some more time if he doesn't get those first place finishes. However, he just says, well, what if I just get those first place finishes?
As he takes us for round 10 into World Tour Miami Drive as his own track choice. And the race kicks off, and to remind everyone of the point standings right now, we do have Neal and Cool firmly in the lead. SUNGBIN and Hero are the only 2 players that can really contend that for the time being.
Yeah, and even then, they're going to need a first place finish of their own if they want to try to catch up in time. So it looks to be a bit of a tough ordeal, but guess what? Maybe the race gets extended a bit if Neal gets bumped all the way down into 8th place.
Yeah, that was a huge collision into that tree there, and you can see Nog, JiMin, and HoJun being the top 3 player, Cool and Neal nowhere in sight. So it is a chance now for the other players to finally catch up. As you can see Cool, he's so scary, just barely in that camera view.
Yeah, Cool is just trying to vie for that one more opportunity, and he finds it off of a draft and a boost. He even pushes Luning out of the build he wants.
Those lines.
Yeah, just pushes him out into the outer line, gets his own as well, blocks off Hero. Cool, he is just able to maintain composure in any type of scenario. Now gets bumped back a little bit, but hey, we saw it happen in lap 1. He could do it again in lap 2.
He certainly can. That is the fear that Cool is putting into the hearts of all our players here tonight, as it's Luning and Hero gunning for that top 2 spots. Nock and Cool following not too far behind. And this is a map where if you can keep onto the lead and don't make any mistakes, it is hard for the opponents to catch up. But Cool, he's just making that logic not work tonight somehow.
Yeah, Cool is just constantly finding this opportunity. This is not the picture that Luning wanted. He just wanted a clean first place finish to try to catch up in points. But if Cool continues to pressure him, even if he gets first place, it's not exactly the ideal scenario. And once again, the pressure gets to him. Cool just making all these forced errors happen from his opponents, trying to push Hero into the food trucks. Hero's not going to fall for that trap this time.
Cool is just playing so out of his mind, like you said, Will. He just goes for these subtle taps into players, and it has done so much for him as he went for on Hero there once again. Now fighting it off with Neal. Cool is in the lead, blocks out Neal from his line, and Cool is looking to finish first, but Hero comes in from the outer, and Hero is looking to take that first place for himself. The first place finish for Hero tonight. Boost him up to around 32 points, I believe. So 30 points is kind of like the cutoff we are seeing that you need to be at right now if you want to catch up to Hero and Neal.
At Hero's next choice, this time it is going to be Village Boom Hill Tunnel. The first time for Hero to get his track choice. Can he chain it into a couple more? That would give him that opportunity to try to catch up to the 56 and 59 points of Cool and Neal.
Well, Hero has certainly had a good start for himself there, and now just fighting it out with Nock alone in a 1v1 battle as Neal and Cool. You saw Neal kind of trying to go into the line of Cool, testing him a bit, but Cool has an excellent read on his opponent as they just completely knock HoJun out of contention.
Yeah, Neal's still able to catch right back up with another draft dead boost coming in time, and Hero holding on to that first place. We talk about this track a lot, how if you're in first place, generally it is a bit easier to play defense. However, I mean, if you start to ping pong around these curves here, that spells absolute trouble, and Hero's just trying to create that distance to make sure he's not forced to make those mistakes.
Hero has been doing a phenomenal job so far of having a read on Nock, and Nock finally manages to pass through him as we see every player take the rail build, and Neal gets, or Hero rather, or Cool, every single player gets so much boost off that.
Yeah, and Cool just trying to maintain the speed a bit better, but Hero says, I'm just going to go for the extra boost in trade, and this should mean that Hero, unless he makes a crucial mistake, he should be able to finish in first place, chaining another first place finish here to get another 10 points, as Cool will follow up in second place.
That is the second first place for Hero, and he's done it consecutively. It doesn't matter because there is no 3 consecutive win places.
Across the entire stream, just absolutely foregoing the bridge at all. Make sure he gets a better top speed on that landing, so Cool is able to catch up all the way to second place, but Hero, just good defense around that spin turn. And now look at the point difference, 64-63. However, Hero close at 54.
As we go to Factory Facility 5. And the race kicks off here for Hero's choice of track yet again. As we see Hero, he is going to get blocked off by the group of players, so he's going to have to take this one a bit slow and steady. We're seeing Cool and Neal. They are having a phenomenal start right off the bat.
Oh, that's not the picture any of the other racers want to see, with both of them at 63-64. I mean, if either of them get first place, you can pretty much assume that we are going to wrap things up in the next track, as both of them have always been in contention for the top.
Oh,
no! Neal, he fails his own Neal build and falls into the River of Doom as he now loses all that speed, all that distance. Cool now healthily in first place.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate result for Neal there. If it worked out, it would have been so great, but now Cool and HoJun, they're in contention of that top spot. JiMin and Luning also looking for it. There's a lot of sharp turns on Factory Facility 5, so we'll have to see if any executions come out from our players.
I mean, this could spell a lot of trouble for Neal, because not only is Cool absolutely going to take him over in total point standings, but that means that he might be in trouble if Hero's able to climb just a bit more in the standings in the future tracks. Neal may be pushed out of the top 2 as well. We'll have to wait and see. Cool now just trying to get sure that he gets that first place. If he does so, he really just needs a top 2 finish in the next track to be able to finish the very first set here in the very first final lane of the KDL. Only 300 meters left. Cool, enough distance. No one able to catch up with that draft, and he will be crossing the finish line first.
Man, what a great performance from Cool yet again. It was all about Cool versus Neal in that beginning portion of the track.
Yeah, just absolutely good racing. Another record here, beating out Neal's record himself. Cool setting another record to his name. Getting those 10 points, taking over the standings towards the 80 as we near the end of the first set of the solo final. 73 points, a first or second place finish for Cool in the next track.
We'll have to keep our eyes on where Cool finishes, Neal finishes, Hero finishes as we move into World Tour Terracotta Twister, a track brought to us by Cool, the man himself.
Cool once again selecting Terracotta Twister as we have gone through every single track. We are back into our second rotation. Goes back to his old favorite here. Oh, Cool. Just good recovery off of that bump right now. Cool knows he just wants to finish this first set. Make sure he gets ready for the 1v1. And Neal, right now, all eyes on him. Can he just maintain enough points ahead of Hero to secure the top two?
So in fact, Neal might actually want Cool to finish off the race because that will guarantee him a spot in that set too. As we're seeing right now, Luning, he is holding on to that first place pretty firmly. If Cool gets third place, there will be another round to be played.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite a few scenarios, and Hero just doesn't want to fall off the track, but that does mean he loses all the possible speed there in the tube section, but he finds an opportunity as everyone else plays it safe around the last corner. Now Hero climbing forward quite far ahead. Neal, the pressure's starting to get to him if he's not able to get enough points. If he falls into 7th or 8th place, gets 0 or even -1 points, Hero suddenly in contention for the top two.
That is absolutely the game plan for Hero right now. He's cooked up some masterpiece of a build as he managed to recover all the way up into 2nd place. Now Luning is leading firmly, SUNGBIN and HoJun following up. Cool and Neal nowhere inside. This is the ideal story for Hero here.
Yeah, absolutely. He might even be able to take his own destiny into his hands. Now Cool still trying to get into just 2nd place, but there's quite a few racers ahead of him. HoJun and SUNGBIN blocking that way. Luning is trying to find an aggressive part to pressure Hero, but Hero doesn't fall for it. Sets himself up nicely, but HoJun with a nice jump across the gap suddenly rises right back into 1st place.
Oh, SUNGBIN gets completely booped off. Luning also completely goes out, and Hero as well. What's going on, Will?
Oh no, I mean, all of them were trying to avoid each other as well along those collisions, and Hero now, all that dream has just been dashed. Cool, he should be able to at least get 2nd place, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, the first set is over. Cool reaches 80 points on the dot, and it should be Cool and Neal going in to the final 1v1.
Lead over his consistent performance throughout the whole race that he may be our 2nd player.
Yeah, and HoJun, I mean, finally gets that 1st place at the very end, but he still had too many points to go. Falls short at 5th place, tied with Luning with 35. Puts him solidly in 55 points. Not able to enter the top two. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a rematch of pre-season 1. The finalists, the 2 finalists will be Cool and Neal. However, this time it has been swapped. This time it's Cool who takes the 80 points. Curious to see how things pan out, but couldn't ask for a better rematch here in the 1v1 for the very first finals of the KDL.
Yeah, this is the best story that we could have if you're a fan of the pre-season 1 matchup we've had, where Cool was able to 3-0 Neal in that round 2, the set 2 of the solo finals. And Neal, he definitely wants to turn things around, right? He cannot allow his opponent to get a 3-0 on him again, and it's so great that he has a chance for redemption. Also, this is the 3rd time that Neal has made it to the final set 2 of solos.